WagerTalk Today, and this is Wednesday, February the 7th, hump day, halfway through the week, and we're getting even closer to Super Bowl Sunday. Guess it's 4 days away now? Sunday the 11th. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot of Super Bowls. We've been doing each and every day this week. We'll have more Super Bowl props from numerous guests and also some basketball in between because that's the daily moneymaker this time of year in February. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. Don't you worry. My co-host Teddy Covers is here all week with me. Teddy's going to take a look at some more Super Bowl props during his big game breakdown, also a What Bettors Learn segment. But, of course, also have Marco D'Angelo talking college hoops and the NFL, Rob Veno talking college basketball and the NFL, and our resident Canadian. We got to have a Canadian on because we didn't have one yesterday. Carmine Bianco talking NHL and also looking at a cross-sport prop, which we have not done this week in soccer and the NFL. So loaded show, lots to get to. And let's bring in one of our Vegas boys, Marco D'Angelo. And Marco, welcome to the show. Is it a little bit different this year having the Super Bowl in your hometown?
Oh, absolutely. I think we're going to shatter every betting handle record that there is for the Super Bowl this year. Looking forward to it. After I get done with you guys this afternoon, getting to do something I've never done before. I'll be on Radio Row this week at the Super Bowl. So looking forward to that, doing a show today and tomorrow from there. So it's fun times here in Vegas, other than the traffic and nonsense. And, Dan sending us the rain from California. It's been a mess here in Vegas.
Though compared to the F1, the traffic situation is nothing. It's just a regular weekend. What are we looking at? 330,000 visitors in Vegas this weekend? It's what we do. Marco, let's get into it. We're going to start with some college hoops talk. Before we talk, you're going to give us the total for the Super Bowl. But let's start with some college hoops for tonight. Northwestern and Nebraska. I had Northwestern in each of their last two games. Each of their last two games, they found a way to go to overtime. Each of their last two games, they found a way to lose in overtime, covering one spread, not covering the other. They're returning home today to face a Nebraska team that's playing some pretty good basketball right now. They're coming off a pretty big comeback win of their own. Right now, look at the WagerTalk Live odds screen. What have we seen? 4.5, 5 for Northwestern. Sixes now. Boy, this line's popped up this morning. It was 4.5, 5 last time I checked. Now we're seeing sixes total, 142. What are you going to do with the Wildcats and the Cornhuskers?
Well, Teddy, you know that I love to look for situational spots, and this is a great one in my opinion. You look at Northwestern, as you said, 2 games ago, they went to Purdue, and they gave Purdue all they could handle, taking them to overtime in that game before they finally lost 105-96. Then 3 days later, they had to travel for a second game on the road. They went to Minnesota, and they lost 75-66. Northwestern came up, in my opinion, flat in that game. It was such a big effort the game before against highly ranked Purdue, who's number 2 in the country. Now Northwestern's had 4 days to regroup. They're back at home and enter Nebraska. And what I'm going to point out with Nebraska sounds awful familiar. What did they do in their last game? Well, first 2 games back, they beat Wisconsin at home. At the time, Wisconsin was ranked number 6 in the country. Then they go on the road, play another top team, number 10, Illinois. They go to overtime, lose 87-84 in overtime as a 10-point underdog. Sound familiar? Yeah. Big game, overtime, big underdog, come up short. I think they're right for a flat spot, playing a second game in a row on the road, going to play a Northwestern team that plays well on their home floor. They're 11-1 straight up this season at home. And if you look at Nebraska, the last 2 seasons, when they've played a conference road game, they're just 3-14 against the spread. I love the spot. I love Nebraska coming in here. And this is one of those second meeting games. And I don't take the revenging team every single time, Teddy. It's most overused angle in sports. But I do want to look at what happened in that game and if there was anything out of the ordinary. Well, Nebraska shot 55% from the field in that game and an insane 53% from three-point range in the 9-point win. I think the tables get turned tonight. I'm going to take Northwestern.
So I got to disagree, and I don't often disagree, Marco. I like to, poke. But Northwestern wasn't flat in their last game. They came out, they had a double-digit lead with 3 minutes left and blew it, which is kind of what happened in Purdue as well. What we've seen from this Wildcats team is an inability to create offense during crunch time when the opposing team steps up defensively. And in my mind, that's a factor that I would be concerned about if I was laying points to them as a favorite. Nebraska, pretty tough defensively. And Northwestern, even with Boo Booey's leadership, they've had a lot of problems getting the biscuit in the basket during crunch time of these tight games. Does that worry you at all in this point spread range?
Obviously, what they did down the stretch in the last game, that was a concern, and they didn't shoot well in that game at all, Teddy, 38% from the field. But if you do look at the 3 games prior to that for Northwestern, they shot 55, 57, and 57% again. So I think that, this was a team that figured some stuff out. That last game just, is what it is. Again, when I say flat, it's just one of those things that playing back-to-back games the way they did, big games, it was just too much, to ask for them. I think they bounced back at home, and they've had a few days. It's not that quick turnaround that you get sometimes from a Saturday to a Monday game with some teams. Here we are looking at them playing on Wednesday night. They've had a couple extra days in between to hit the reset button.
Talking college basketball with Marco D'Angelo, WagerTalk.com, and Marco's got a strong 4% play going tonight, game of the week in the MVC, and he is on a mere 15-2 run on 4% best bets. Check that out tonight right now at WagerTalk.com. And Marco, we're going to switch from college hoops now to the Super Bowl. We've had a lot of prop talk this week, but nobody has actually broken down the game itself, side or total. So I want to get your take on the over-under on this game, and it's been holding steady for over a week now at 47.5. It'll be interesting to see if it goes up or down because both 47 and 48 are somewhat key numbers. I'd say about a 2 to 3% chance it could land on either one of those, and it's splitting the difference right now. You going over or under 47.5 in the Super Bowl?
Well, Steve, I am going to go under, and I wanted to do either the side or the total here on the show today because, and I want to thank Teddy for filling in for me last week on Bet On It. I wasn't able to do the show, so I wanted to give my breakdown of the game. And looking at this game, when you look at a Super Bowl and you look at a total and you see 47.5, and then you say, Patrick Mahomes, you say San Francisco, a high-scoring team, automatically you think that total looks a little low. Just knee-jerk reaction. I'm talking from the average bettor. And when you get to the Super Bowl, just like I say every year when we break down the Kentucky Derby, it's going to be a lot of dead money, in the Super Bowl pool. There's going to be novice players that don't bet football all year, but they want to be a part of the big game. It's an event. And most people don't like betting unders. They like betting overs. And I am going to give you the under here today, but I'm going to put a little asterisk to it. I'm going to tell you, wait. There's no reason to rush to the window to bet this game because you haven't got all the tourists in town yet. They'll be coming in the next 48 hours, and they bet on the weekend closer to game time. And I think you have a better chance of this ticking up a hair than losing any value dropping down. Now, with that said, why am I looking at the under? Well, you've got 2 of the best defenses in football. Both of these teams are very good points per game allowed, yards per play allowed. You're talking about top 10, defenses in all of the important categories, except one. And this also leads to me to help the under. Kansas City, the one weakness this team has is their rush defense. And for whatever reason in the last game, I don't know, Baltimore, who would have thought it, the team that has the best rushing offense in football this year decided to only run the football 16 times in that game, even though they averaged a little bit over 5 yards per carry on those 16 attempts. They got away from the run, and San Francisco's not going to do that for several reasons. One, they're a very good running football team. 2, they've got one of the best running backs in football in Christian McCaffrey. 3, they've got a young quarterback that they are going to try to protect early on. And this is a team that's, not a big play, go down the field for, a 70-yard pass. They methodically move down the field. And unfortunately for Kansas City, when they've got the football, they've become that type of team this year because he just doesn't have the big play explosiveness players that he can trust. Of course, yeah, there's Travis Kelce there, but he's a possession receiver that helps you keep drives alive and work the ball down the field. I see this as a methodical game. Both teams relying on their defense and playing it safe on offense, and then look at the two coaches and what their tendencies are. If Kansas City does have a lead in the second half, Andy Reid is notorious for taking his foot off the gas in protecting a lead. And San Francisco, if they've got a lead, well, we know what Kyle Shanahan's done in the past, but he's also got a powerful running game. What's the best way to protect a lead? Do what you do best. Run the football. Eat the clock. I'm going under 47.5, but haven't made my bet yet. I'm going to wait a little bit and see if I can get a 48 or a 48.5 later in the week.
So I certainly agree with you in theory, Marco. I made a case when I did my big game breakdown for this for teasing the KC side and the under. I love those, the 6 extra points could come into play here. All that being, that being said, when we look at a situation where we're looking for unders, are there props that stand out to you that you want to target when you handicap the game is long, slow, methodical drives? Give me a prop or two that stands out to you that correlates with your theory of how this game's going to play out.
Well, obviously, I'm going to look at prop, and this will be another one, Teddy, that I wait till later in the week because if you're betting nos or unders, you want to bet them late in the week. If you're betting yeses and overs, you want to bet them early in the week because before the public gets in and drives them up. And the one I'll be waiting for, obviously, I'm going to look at Patrick Mahomes passing yards. I am going to look to the under with him, and I'm going to wait to see how high I can get the prop with that because of everything that I said. You're going to, it's going to be methodical drives, which means less possessions. Less possessions means less opportunities to get to the numbers that they need to get to. And we all know that when Vegas makes these prop bets, they know what the public wants to bet. Okay, so there's already a little bit of a built-in edge, I think, in looking at the under with the big name players. And then you wait later in the week, the public helps you out a little bit more and gets you a little more value on top of where I already think there is value. So, yes, I'm going to have a lot of unders on some key players with player props, and Mahomes being one of them on the passing yards.
And once again, for a deeper dive into Super Bowl 58, be sure to check out each day going forward the daily breakdowns here. Teddy Covers will be up tomorrow with his game breakdown for this, a solo video, and then I'll be up the day after as well. Breaking the midweek report down. And then, of course, I'll have my Fade the Public information this weekend on Saturday. But spoiler alert, Chiefs are a public dog, and the public is on the over, like you said, Marco. So I do expect more Chiefs and more over money to come in this weekend worldwide, including in Vegas. So once again, if you like the over, don't know if you're going to see any 47s, probably play it sooner than later. If you like the under, I completely agree with Marco. I would wait. I do think you will see some 48s, which are a key number. And as far as the teasers go, the only two real key numbers in this price range is 41 and 51. And like Teddy said, you can get up over 51 with an under teaser. It's getting tough to get down to 41. You'd have to use a 7-point teaser. And unless the Chiefs go to 3 or more, it doesn't really make sense to do that. And I don't see that happening once again. It's currently 2, some 2.5s. But I think that'll drop this weekend as well with the public on KC and the over. But once again, tons of breakdowns for the rest of the week. Also, a lot of prop videos here on WagerTalk TV as well each and every day. So check out the solo videos and also the NBA and college basketball free play videos as well. Marco, on the way out, we talk Super Bowl, we talk college hoops, but once again, you got a huge Missouri Valley game of the week, 4% best bet. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, guys, just knock on wood. I've been seeing things very well right now ever since, the college football championship game, where we've got more time to focus on just basketball, NBA, and hockey. It's been paying dividends. That's across all the sports, those 4% plays, 15-2 the last 17. I did lose one last night. We had Michigan State last night come up a little short, but you know what? If I can roll off 15 out of 17, I'm pretty happy with that. So let's keep it rolling.
Marco D'Angelo, WagerTalk.com, big college hoops play going tonight on Wednesday. And don't forget, college basketball tip-off show will be on in a couple hours at 2 o'clock Eastern as well. I'll be on with Rob Veno and Brian Leonard breaking down more college basketball games. And Rob's going to be on in a moment to give us a little sneak peek at a college hoops game. But before we do so, we've been doing what bettors learn each week, big game breakdowns each day this week on the Super Bowl. And Teddy's in the heart in Las Vegas. So, Teddy, how different is it going to be this year with the Super Bowl in town, parties, everything else that's normally in your routine?
Not that different. I mean, it really isn't. The difference is that this year, the people that are coming into town, some of them get to go to the game, but this town's always packed for Super Bowl week. And it doesn't change. It's always packed for the 2 weeks before Super Bowl, really. And I wanted to talk about Super Bowl parties in Vegas, Super Bowl in Vegas, visiting Vegas, what you want to do when you come to visit Vegas. And there's always a debate. Which one's better on your bucket list? Do you want the opening weekend of March Madness in Vegas, or do you want the Super Bowl? And I will say this. There is a case to be made for March Madness because it's 4 days of wall-to-wall action, where Super Bowl is one game, a lot of bets on that one game, but a lot of hype. So if I had to pick the one, I'd probably pick March Madness. That being said, you probably want both on your bucket list before all said and done for a trip to Las Vegas. No question, Super Bowl is a special event in this town. And it's real hard to get seats at a sportsbook on Super Bowl Sunday, particularly if you're with any kind of a group. A lot of people end up going to the parties. It's possible to find a seat if you're going to run around solo. If there's two of you, there's a chance you can find free seats if you come early. The game kicks off 3:30 local time here in Vegas, or probably won't kick off then, but is scheduled to kick off at 3:30 local time. But you can find a seat if you're one or two. You're not finding seats if you're a group. If you're any kind of group, you probably want to get tickets to one of the Super Bowl parties. And most properties in town have one. And over the years, I've been to a bunch of them. I've been to parties at the Westgate, the MGM, Mandalay. I've been at Venetian. I've been at Caesars. I've been at the Stardust. I've been at Imperial Palace, to date myself, for these Super Bowl parties. And there's not that much difference between one and another. Big rooms, convention center type of stuff. There's admission fees, so it's not quite as rowdy as the book itself. Good atmosphere, but compared to the sports book, it's somewhat subdued in the parties, just because you're dealing with, how do we phrase this appropriately? I'm not going to try to phrase it appropriately. There's a classier atmosphere in the parties than there is outside, which results in a different energy level. Difference in prices between the parties, has a lot to do with the difference in food and whether it's open bar or not. Open bar, sure, matters, worth paying for. Shitty heat lamp pizza and hot dogs versus crab legs and sushi. I've been to some of these parties and the food is inedible. It's worth it probably to pay a little bit more to get something you can actually eat. But nothing you can't live without. Super Bowl Sunday, prop heaven, 4 hours of spectacle. I can't wait. If you're in town, let us know what parties you're going to in the comments section below. If you're going to a party and why you chose that one, you're really not going to go wrong at most locations here in Las Vegas this weekend. Steve, back to you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Teddy. I was going to say comment below in the live chat, but more importantly in the replay on YouTube here, and let us know, first of all, your plans for the Super Bowl, your best Super Bowl memories, best parties you've ever been to, worst parties you've ever been to. Maybe there was some spam and a gelatin casserole served, some good stories. But yeah, comment below. Let's keep the Super Bowl theme going this week. And one of our best viewers and commenters, Fortunate in the live chat right now, said that the conference tournaments the week before is the best time to go to Vegas. And that's also a great time. Very underrated time of year, Teddy, I think.
And you can get you can sit in the sports book that weekend without having to pay the premium prices. And if you're asking me what's the best weekend to bet, it's not close. Conference championship. I mean, the week before the opening weekend of March Madness, when all the conference championships are going, that's an insane time in the books. Every game is great, but it's still not March Madness or Super Bowl. The atmosphere is not quite the same, and that's meaningful.
And you can also make the same argument for the conference championship games, the NFC AFC game. You get a 2-for-1 Sunday instead of one game as well, and a little bit of the same theory as the conference tournament.
No, Super Bowl. Comparing the Super Bowl weekend to conference championship weekend in Vegas, you can't compare it. Super Bowl weekend is way better, way hyped. Comparing the opening weekend of March Madness to the week before with all the conference tournaments, I think there's a legit comparison there because there's so much action, so many games on, and the books are still, you can get a seat, but it's still nuts in there.
Right. And that's the thing. There's actually more games during the conference tournaments and more betting opportunities as well. And it's not quite as crazy. So, yeah, some great times to go. I always end up going in July and August because that's the off season when I'm not slammed with the Super Bowl and March Madness. And it's 110 degrees. And that's when we used to have the conferences and the seminars and the meet and greets. So, unfortunately, I don't get out there much for the big events, but it is a great thing to be out there. And if you're going to be out there in Vegas, let us know as well in the comments below and on the live chat. All right, we'll keep the Super Bowl theme going in a moment with Rob. Veno's going to have a prop for us, but first we're going to talk more college hoops because once again, college and pro basketball in the NHL is your daily moneymaker for the rest of the winter here. It's one football game remaining, but we got a lot of basketball every day. And Rob will be on also in a couple hours at 2 Eastern with myself and Brian Leonard for the college basketball show. But Rob, let's look at this Auburn and Alabama game and something that didn't get talked about a lot, but I do a radio hit. One of the few ESPN shows I still do is down in the Tennessee Valley. And there was a meaningless, and I say air quotes, meaningless 3 at the buzzer when these teams played a few weeks ago. And the officials just kind of walked off and didn't check it one way or the other. And it really was a difference in what team would have covered. So maybe the first half's the way to play this game. So the basket will actually be reviewed if it goes into the buzzer. What did you take here on Alabama-Auburn Part 2?
You're right, Steve. It's a rematch of a game played just 2 weeks ago, same Wednesday night deal, so exactly 14 days ago. And I played it the exact same and the exact opposite way of how I'm going to play it tonight. Last time out, I played Alabama first half. They were -2. They raced out to, I think, a 44-30 lead. It was never in doubt that first half. They cashed pretty easily. This time I'm going to try the Auburn side first half. Here they open -2.5. They've got bumped up to 3 as far as the first half is concerned. Just a couple of notes from that first half in the first game. Alabama came out and Auburn looked a little bit startled. Like I said, it was a 14-point margin at halftime. Alabama, dependent as they are on their good three-point shooting, they're actually terrific three-point shooting. They outscored Auburn 24-3 from the three-point arc in the first half of that game. Auburn shot 1 of 10, looked like a deer in the headlights. But the second half came around and Auburn won the second half, 45-35. Alabama only shoots 29% from the field and only 3 of 13 from 3, 23%. So the defense that Auburn prides themselves on showed up after they got the jitters out of there. 40% of Alabama's second half points came from the free throw line, 14 free throws out of 35 points. So Auburn held some big advantages in the second half that I think might carry over. They actually won points off turnovers. They turned that around. Bench scoring became theirs. Coleman Coliseum's a tough place to play, but this home floor in the first half has been especially tough. Auburn's had 11 true home games this year. They're 9-2 against the spread in those first halves at home. And actually, they had a 9-game winning streak up until their most recent game against Vanderbilt, where they laid 10.5 in the first half and only won by 10. So they had a loss to start the year, ATS, 9 straight wins, and then a bookend loss heading into this game, 9-2 at Neville Arena. What's interesting about these games, guys, is 3-1 ATS, 4-0 straight up against the SEC. So they've been really good here against league competition. 2-0 if you want to take non-conference teams that are pretty good. USC and Virginia Tech came here. They both walked away with first half losses against the spread. And the margins of victory have been huge, anywhere between 8 and 19 points. And we're only laying 3 here against Alabama. You want to couple that with the fact that Bama has not been good. I think they've only played 5 true road games. And 4 of those have been inside SEC play since the start of January. 1-3, first half against the number for Alabama. So they have not been quick out of the gates on the road. Auburn's been mauling people out of the gates at home. That seems to match up here. Again, the fundamental matchups we really don't have to go through, guys, because they're the same as they were the first game. Auburn's actually number 1 in SEC play in offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency and three-point defense and block shots and forced turnovers. That's a lot to overcome if you're Alabama, a team that's basically predicated on offense. It's a big game in the standings. Bama sits on top. They're 8-1. Auburn 7-2. Bama's already got a game in hand because they beat Auburn once. So this is a chance for Auburn to even things up as far as division is concerned. I think, Auburn showed it all season long, guys. They come from the opening tip at home with a purpose. I think they'll come with a purpose tonight. I think the second half of last game carries over. They're a little more confident. I'm going to take Auburn minus 3 points in the first half here against Alabama.
So I have a strategy for college basketball when it comes to February. February is, in my mind, one of the most difficult months in college hoops. And one thing I like to do at this time of year is start betting on the teams that have been crappy on the road because they finally learned how to play on the road. And it stood out to me watching the games last night. Single-digit road dogs. I think they went 11-3 against the spread. And one of the losses was by a half point. The road teams by February start to figure it out. Does that worry you at all, given you're looking at the home favorite in this one?
I'm just checking my teeth here, Teddy, before I come at you, because last Saturday was a February game or a January game. I'm losing track here. Last Saturday, Alabama was on the road at Georgia, and they were getting buried at halftime. So if we're going to be technical and say that was a February game or a January 31st game, I'm not sure. But certainly Alabama didn't learn. Maybe they learn it now because the calendar turned to February 7th. I'm not sure. But they just haven't been good on the road as recently as being a favorite first half on the road at a place like Georgia, where they had to have a miraculous last 10-minute comeback to win the game. So I don't know. Maybe it applies, but I'm not worried about it in this instance just because of the overwhelming good that Auburn's done on their home floor all season long and the kind of sense of urgency that they have to play with here tonight.
Rob Veno breaking down some college hoops, and Rob and I and Brian Leonard will be talking more college hoops with Joe Ranieri at 2 o'clock Eastern today on Wednesday, so make sure you check that out. And if you're joining us later in the day, all these shows are archived 24/7 here on YouTube on WagerTalk TV. And once again, comment below on all the shows. I read the comments, I reply back, as does Rob and Teddy and everybody else. All right, Rob, let's get to the Super Bowl now. I want to get your take on the big game while we have you today on Wednesday. And you're going to look at a prop for us, a receiving prop. Break it down for us.
Yeah, I'll try Marquez Valdez-Scantling, guys, KC wide receiver over his receiving yards, which are 19.5. Last two games he has gone over here in the playoffs. He's learned how to catch the football. Maybe that's another one of those things, Teddy. Maybe when the championship or divisional round of the playoffs comes, guys learn how to catch the football and not drop it. I'm not sure, but he and Travis Kelce have been really good at doing it, as has Rashee Rice. Everywhere you go, there's a majority opinion, better than 50% opinion of how this game is going to play out, right? It's going to be limited possessions, ball control, Kansas City can't go deep, drain the clock, whatever. So let's take that into account here. But I'm going to start with the 49ers defensive game plan here, guys. I think that all they've heard for better than a month now is that they have difficulty stopping the run. So if you're Green Bay, the game plan has to be first and foremost, defend the run. It doesn't matter how many guys you have to put up. They have to defend the run. Aaron Jones ate him up. Detroit ate him up. If you go back into the regular season, you'll find that Arizona late in the year had 200-plus yards rushing against this team. It's well documented. I don't know if they can stop it, to tell you the truth, without committing more guys to the run. Last week, they saw Travis Kelce, get 10 targets in the first half and catch 10 passes, 11 overall for the game. That, again, going to be a second concern here from the defense of the San Francisco 49ers. Rashee Rice, all of a sudden, 25 catches in 25 targets, 20 catches in 3 playoff games, 233 yards. He'll probably get single coverage, but he'll get some added attention, whether it be safety help or something. There's 3 things right there that San Francisco has got to commit to. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is not one of those things. As no matter how low possession you get, you're still going to get 2 to 4 targets from this guy in the course of a game. That's what he's been getting. He went over the total, like I say, in these last 2 games. One had to be a big catch at the end of the game against Buffalo. And I would say this, guys, if in fact you're trying to stop Kansas City from being methodical, a way that worked for them against Baltimore, then you draw more guys to the line of scrimmage. And your deep threat, your deep intermediate, or your deep vertical threat is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So I'm banking on the fact that he'll get the 2 to 4 targets he's been getting, that he'll make a couple of catches. Generally, his are big catches for big yardage. So you may only need one catch to get yourself over the total here. Kansas City, for what it's worth, in 2 of these 3 playoff games, 73 and 75 offensive plays. That's a lot of chances to get a catch from Valdez-Scantling. So I just thought the number was too low, considering there'll be little attention paid to him and considering Patrick Mahomes hasn't shied away from going to him in these last couple of playoff games.
Just a quick question, Rob. Just Kadarius Toney's status affect Marquez Scantling at all in your mind? Because he's in town, he's not listed on the injury report, and I'm concerned that Toney could take some of his snaps, or maybe a bunch of his snaps.
Well, I think in the way of Andy Reid play calling, Teddy, because you never know with him, he scripts so well that he worked Toney in last year, right, for a touchdown. I think he and Sky Moore both got a touchdown, but. No, watching enough of Patrick Mahomes, I think he's like any other quarterback who gets to this point and has been here before. They trust who they trust. He trusts Kelsey. He trusts Rice. And he's showing us the last couple of weeks that there's a little bit of growing trust. In fact, one of his quotes was about Marquez Valdez-Scantling, that he wouldn't stop going back to him. So I think those 3 guys are on the top of the heap. Unless there's something specifically designed for Toney, I'm not scared.
Rob Veno breaking down college hoops and giving us a Super Bowl prop as well. And Rob, what else do you have going on at WagerTalk.com for Wednesday?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get this Super Bowl package up today, guys. I don't know how you guys handled it, but it seems like every day for the last 4 days, I would come up with an additional thing. Well, maybe I want to bet this. Well, maybe I want to bet that. There's too much to look at when you start diving into this. But I think I've got it all wrapped up now, so we're going to go ahead and get the Super Bowl package up. It's going to start with the 4% best bet on the game itself. Also tonight, guys, best bet coming from college basketball, 4%. That will be up and loaded before we take the air for the happy hour tip-off show, Steve, in about, an hour and a half from now. So a couple of big plays up. Go ahead and check them out, wagertalk.com.
And, I said Rob would be on the college basketball show. I didn't want to overwhelm the viewers and listeners with too much glorified Rob Veno because he is so spectacular. But he'll be on the NBA show as well with me also at 4:15 Eastern with Ronald Kabang. So you get a Steve Merrill, Rob Veno triple header if you can handle it on Hump Day on Wednesday. College hoops 2 o'clock Eastern and the NBA show at 4 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday. All right, we get some Teddy covers every day with the big game breakdown as well. And Teddy, of course, is focusing on a Super Bowl prop each and every day. I invite you to go back and watch the Monday and Tuesday Wager Talk episodes here if you missed the shortest and longest touchdown. And this one's kind of similar, Teddy. I think this is another one that I always like to break down. Look at this one for us. The last 2 minutes score in the game here, or the first half rather. Break this one down for us as a Wednesday big game breakdown for the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Super Bowl props with today's big game breakdown. Will there be a score in the last 2 minutes of the first half? The yes, priced minus 320, minus 340. The no, be at a nice plus price. This is one where I'm willing to lay the juice. I'm going to bet the yes. Will there be a score the final 2 minutes of the first half? And I'm saying this agreeing 100% with what Rob Veno talked about in low possession game. I do expect a low possession game. That doesn't factor into the last 2 minutes of the first half. What factored into the last 2 minutes of the first half is 2 good offenses. And let's not forget, all right, when it comes to plus prices versus laying big juice in the Super Bowl, there is a legitimate sharp square divide on these props. The Joes are looking for long shots. They want to bet a little to win a lot. The pros, very comfortable laying $2, $3, $4 or higher to make a buck when the odds favor their chances. And this is one of those scenarios where you got to lay 3-1, more than 3-1. Will there be a score the last 2 minutes of the first half? The reason you have to lay more than 3-1 is because it's likely to happen. All right. Low possession game, again, doesn't factor into the last 2 minutes of the first half. We trust both of these offenses. The reason we're leaning under is because we're expecting low possessions. All right, 9-5. This is cash the last 14 Super Bowls, which isn't enough to merit the juice. But in this particular scenario, and 2 pretty strong offensive coaches in Reid and Shanahan, I think we're going to see something in the 2-minute drill before halftime. Whether it's a field goal, whether it's a touchdown, I say there will be points in the final 2 minutes of the first half. That is worth laying some juice with. Big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Yeah, and just want to clarify too, this is a totally different prop and handicap than will there be a score in the final 2 minutes of the game in the second half versus the first half. And I point that out for a couple reasons. First of all, the juice is about half, so the odds makers are telling you all you need to know right there, and it's less likely it happens at the end of the game, obviously, because if the team leading the game has the ball, they're going to run the clock out. But what's interesting, though, Teddy, is you've checked Ralph Michaels' chart. I keep talking about this, but Ralph did a free chart for the last 14 years of Super Bowl props for about 30 different props. It's on his page free right now at WagerTalk.com. He has both of these broken down. The last 2 minutes of the game, it's 7-7. As you said, the last 2 minutes of the first half, it's 9-5, although a lot of those happened a few years back. There's been less recently, so it was even stronger. And I think actually you get some value because of that now, Teddy, the fact that recent games maybe haven't seen as many, but it's a totally different type of prop.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 minutes of the game has a lot to – there's a lot of randomness in that. There really – last 2 minutes of the half, both teams are trying to score. All right, period. Whether it's a field goal, whether it's a touchdown. And it doesn't matter if you get the ball with 30 seconds left at your own 20 and a timeout. You're still going to take a shot downfield. That's not the case at the end of the game. One of the two teams is not trying to score generally in that scenario. One team's just trying to burn the clock. So huge difference between first half and full game in terms of the last 2 minutes. The only one of the two I would be interested here is first half.
And something else to keep in mind, we're so far in now, decades into these competitive Super Bowls, it doesn't really apply anymore. But when Teddy and I started as professionals in the 1990s, we were in the back half of the blowout decades of the 80s and the 90s, in which most games were double digits. Most teams were double-digit favorites at that point. If you look over the last 14 years, every line's been below a touchdown. So these have all been competitive games. So it is kind of comparing apples to apples. And obviously the last 2 years we've had a score in the final minutes of the game, but they both have been 3-point games also, which makes a lot of sense. You know, it's going down to the wire. But this game theoretically should go down to the wire as well with the 2-point spread. So we'll see how it plays out. But once again, a great prop. And it's a fun one to talk about. And Teddy will have one tomorrow on Thursday and also tomorrow on Friday. And don't forget, check out the solo videos here as well daily. Tons of free prop information here on Wager Talk TV. So hit subscribe and hit that bell for instant alerts. All right, we have to meet our Canadian quota. We got one in Monday. Andrew McGinnis was in. Nothing yesterday. The Prez has gone all week. It's a Prez-free zone. So we got to bring on my favorite Canadian, Carmine Bianco. And he's going to break down some NHL. And he also, of course, handicaps soccer. And we're going to get to a cross-sport prop with soccer and the NFL Super Bowl, which I'm looking forward to. But Carm, first, let's start it off with the NHL. Andrew was on Monday, and there were only 2 games on the board after the break. It's a small card tonight on Wednesday as well. So I'll ask you what I asked Andrew real quick. Do you handicap this time of year any differently the first week back from the break? And do you see anything tonight in the Leafs Stars game that you're looking at?
Today as guests, guys. Columbus Day isn't until the 12th of October, but thanks for having me on. I do appreciate it. To your point, Steve, yeah, I think you have to. Most of these teams have had 8 days plus off, and we've seen a lot of low-scoring games. We saw low-scoring games on Monday, yesterday. Only two of the games last night on pretty much a full slate of NHL action went over the total. The defenses are tight. The offenses have yet to click. But tonight could be a little different. There's a couple of games where we could see some scoring. This Leafs Dallas one. Dallas is on a back-to-back. They played in Buffalo yesterday. It's likely going to be Scott Wedgwood in net for them. He's unconfirmed as of yet. Samsonov for the Leafs is confirmed. He's been playing well since coming back from like an 8 or 9 day break where the Leafs sent him down to the minors. He didn't actually play. It was more of a get your head into the proper space type of scenario because he was playing absolutely horrible. But he's allowed 6 goals in 4 starts. The last 4 starts for the Leafs, he's playing extremely well. Just the Leafs haven't been scoring of late. They held the expected goals number on Monday. They had the better advantage there, but they lost that game 3-2. They just couldn't click offensively. But this is one where you get Dallas on the second of a back-to-back. They're 4-2 this season, but you're getting their backup goalie Wedgwood, who hasn't been good against the Leafs in his career, has a goals against average of .395, save percentage of .887. And it's a series in which they don't play often, but the Leafs have dominated the series, winning the last 5. The last time Dallas beat the Toronto Maple Leafs, you have to go back to 10 days after the Kansas City Chiefs beat the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl 54. So I'm leaning the Leafs tonight. They need a home win, and I think this is a good spot at a buy low price.
Lay the juice with Toronto versus Dallas in NHL action on Wednesday. I'm real interested in this cross sports prop that you've got for the Super Bowl. And it's a three-way prop. We have West Ham / Arsenal total goals. We have Isaiah Pacheco receptions. And we have tie. Which of the three are you looking at for this cross sports prop, and where did you find it?
So this one is available on DK, and it's one I like. And I looked at this and from a couple different angles. First of all, the West Ham Arsenal game is probably the one game this weekend, and it's being played obviously on Sunday morning, where I think there's going to be quite a few goals scored in it. This is two teams that the reverse fixture finished 2-0 back in December, but there was an XG number of 438 in that game. So they went well under the number that they should have had in that game. But the last four games between these two have averaged almost 4 goals, 3.75. The last 5 games at West Ham have averaged 4.2 goals per game. And you've got Arsenal coming off a big win against Liverpool, who are league leaders right now. They're playing extremely well. And this just shapes up to be one of those one of these Sunday morning games where we see a bunch of scoring. And it wouldn't surprise me to see something along the lines of a 3-1 or 3-2 type of scoreline. Then I looked at Pacheco, and on the season, he had quite a few games where he had a ton of targets and receptions. But for the most part, he averaged 3.5 targets during the regular season, only 2 targets per game during the playoffs for them, and 4 receptions against Baltimore, 1-1 in both the earlier games against Buffalo and Miami. And this is just one, he's facing a formidable D in San Fran, and I'm just not sure he's going to get that many targets. And even if he gets 3.5 targets and catches twice, I still think we get there. I think if we get 4 goals in the West Ham game, which I believe we will, that it's going to be very tough for Pacheco to beat that. So it's one of those cross ones that could land on the draw. But I think the great thing is you'll know where you stand before the Super Bowl game even starts, as far as what the Pacheco targets or receptions need to be. At DK, his receptions for the game are 2.5 minus 166 to the over. So they're expecting him to get some looks, but we'll see whether that happens or not. Just because it's juiced does not mean it's going to happen.
So here's the question for you, Carm. Why not just bet the over in the West Ham Arsenal game?
Oh, I plan on doing that. But I wanted to do a cross sport. It's going to be on my card, and my clients will get that as one of my plays. But as a cross sports one, I wanted to mix it up a little bit, because I'm not sure about you guys, but I've spent like the last 9 weeks listening to hearing about Taylor Swift. I just wanted something else. So hopefully this is a Swift win for us.
I've been listening to Taylor Swift more than 9 weeks. Don't tell us 9.
Teddy,
I'm taking the over 9 weeks.
I want to mention one other thing, Teddy. Teddy, I want to mention one other thing. I still have, because you mentioned it, I still have my Imperial Palace players card, which, as you'll remember, was basically just a laminated business card that had like a 4 or 5 digit number on it and your name written in pen. It was unbelievable, but somehow we accumulated points. $1 per point, and you could get a room for 2,000 points.
Yeah, Teddy, we got lost in. So I got sidetracked, but when you said Imperial, that was going to be my first comeback when you threw it to me. Is that favorite sportsbook ever in the late '90s when I used to go out to Vegas, because it was in the middle of the Strip. First of all, you get like a $49 room, and Jay Cornegie, who's been running the Superbook Westgate for the past decade plus now, was the guy running that, and he was very innovative. The only book for a while that would put up college football over-unders, and I would, once again, that's one of my July-August trips. I'd come out there in the heat of the summer to play those top 25 teams over-under in college football. And, yeah, the Imperial Palace was no thrills, and it's not even there anymore, but that's probably my favorite sports book of all time from the late 90s. So it's funny that both of you guys have fond memories as well.
the thing that always bugged me about the IP, you had to take 5 escalators to get up there. It was like on the 5th floor. It was way up.
It was right near the table
and
gauge, and there was an escalator.
Couldn't have been slower. It was a tiny escalator. There's only room for one person.
The buffet was in the middle there, and then there's another escalator.
It was maybe the slowest escalator of all time. It was like a minute and a half on that escalator.
You came down the escalator.
But you came down the escalator from the sports book, and you got that whiff of the cigarette smoke that was stuck in the carpet
from the blackjack
and then
tables.
You grab a drink, walk outside, and you saw the O'Shea's poker table out there where people are playing 1-2 and they're absolutely hammered. So it was a great time. Times have changed.
It was
though,
right in the middle of the strip, right next to the Flamingo Hill. Teddy, what is there now? Was that Planet Hollywood, or that was the Aladdin? I think was Planet Hollywood, right? What became IP?
Yeah, that is. I'm spacing.
I'm drawing a blank. Also,
this is what I know is that the parking structure for IP, which used to be always flooded, is still a flood channel. In Las
Is it the
Vegas.
Cromwell now?
It's not Planet Hollywood.
Cromwell next door, or the Lynx?
How is it? I'm sorry.
I thought it might be the Cromwell. Next door.
No, the Cromwell's on Flamingo. Either way, it doesn't matter, and we're out of time. Carm, what do you have to promote, my friend?
All right. So I will have it. It's up now. I have an NFL play and props package. I'm going to be adding props throughout the week and the weekend leading up to game time. So there's probably going to be about 8 to 10 props. I love the NFL props. Last time I was in Vegas was for the Super Bowl when it was San Fran and KC. Marco and I went out. We found an off-the-strip sports bar, bought tickets, and watched the game there. And I spread out all my prop bets on the table and won more than I lost, which was good. So that package is up at WagerTalk, and some NHL action as well too for tonight on a small card.
Jake S is saying Cromwell was Aladdin, and Jake said the link in Planet Hollywood. I think Planet Hollywood was Aladdin. We'll look it up though.
Yeah, Planet Hollywood was Aladdin. The link,
it was Aladdin because I would never be in there.
It was the link was Imperial Palace. The link in that walk between the promenade, whatever it's called. Yeah, that used to be Imperial Palace. So.
And on the way out, my favorite other thing about the Imperial Palace is they had a gigantic horse book with like nice seats, big screen, but then the sports book was literally a counter with a dry erase board and not even any chairs. So it was like right on the side there. But anyway, good times. And a lot of our viewers were not even alive when that book was there. So we'll leave it at that. But Teddy Covers and I will be back tomorrow on Thursday and Friday breaking down the Super Bowl more and more as we get closer to the big game this weekend. But once again, check out the solo videos here. Every day of the week, we're adding new ones for Super Bowl props. Teddy's game breakdown will be up later tonight. Mine will be up tomorrow here on the channel and other great content as well. So hit subscribe and hit the bell for instant alerts. And don't forget 2 promos on the way out. Super Bowl to Super Bowl promo this Sunday through next year's Super Bowl. But if you sign up right now, you get the next 4 days and nights included for free. So don't wait. And also, if you want a smaller package, you want to dip your toes in the water for the rest of February, you can get the rest of February for just $8.50 a day with an instant $100 discount. So check out the All Sports Access for either the month or the year at wagertalk.com. No promo code needed. Every capper, including Teddy Covers and myself, Steve Merrill. And Teddy, take us home. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the Wednesday edition. We still got Thursday and Friday editions to come of your daily Sports Central for gamblers. Between now and tomorrow's show, live 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern time, this is what you got to do. Enjoy the games. Good luck with your wagers.